My work focuses primarily on the importance of values and becoming an emotionally healthy adult. One of my spicier arguments is that happiness is greatly overrated in today's age. People focus on it far too much, and that focus tends to backfire consistently. Worst of all, people have started confusing comfort and highs with happiness itself. It's interesting to look at the ancient world here. Aristotle argued that there are two versions of happiness. There is hedonia, which is pleasure, comfort, and short-term satisfaction. And there is eudaimonia, which is a deeper, purpose-driven sense that this is a meaningful way to live my life. The modern age has been optimized to promote as much hedonia as possible. Everything is designed to make us comfortable, to give us quick dopamine hits, to make us feel good constantly, and to promise simple, superficial happiness all the time. But what actually drives life satisfaction is eudaimonia, that sense that my life was worth living, that I have no regrets, that everything I suffered or struggled through was worth it. One idea worth keeping in mind here comes from Alan Watts, which I call the backwards law. The more you chase a positive experience, the more that chasing itself becomes a negative experience. And the more you accept a negative experience, the more that acceptance itself becomes a positive one. You see this show up everywhere. The more you try to impress people, the less impressive you feel. The more beautiful you want to be, the uglier you see yourself. The more money you want, the more inadequate and poor you feel. The more love you feel you need, the lonelier and more isolated you become. The more spiritually enlightened you try to be, the more self-centered and narcissistic you may end up. The more you try to be happy all the time, the more easily upset you become. Whereas if you simply accept that life is sometimes hard and things go wrong, you become happier and more easygoing. This backwards law matters because so much of what we are exposed to daily sells us on self-image. Buy this, and you will become more beautiful. Buy that, and you will be happier, or fix your confidence issues in 30 days or your money back. It all sounds enticing, but the more you chase it, the more you actually increase your negative experiences, because you are constantly chasing the positive. So instead of asking yourself what will make me happy, ask what you are willing to struggle for. What problems do you actually like having in your life? When I give talks, I sometimes ask the audience, what kind of masochist are you? What is the pain you secretly enjoy that most people do not? Because it is in that pain, in that special relationship with your own struggle, that most of your meaning and purpose will be found. It lives in the struggles you relish and the challenges you are proudest of overcoming. This ties back to the backwards law. When you constantly chase positive experiences, you end up on a treadmill, always looking for the next hit, the next high to keep you going. But when you find the negative experiences you are willing to accept and embrace, that embrace generates a longer, more sustained sense of well-being. Here is the sneaky truth most people miss. Happiness is not something you pursue and achieve directly. It is the natural side effect of finding something more meaningful and purposeful in your life. If you find something worth caring about, happiness follows on its own. Another common affliction today is the idea that we are each special and unique, and that because of this, we deserve special treatment, special results, a special place in the world. Ultimately, this breeds entitlement, a sense that we deserve certain outcomes without putting in the effort. I think this comes from two places. One is well-intentioned. Our parents raised us being told we were special, amazing, and unique, with gifts to share with the world. Because the self-esteem research of that era said, this is what you are supposed to tell your kids. We now understand that this is not the case. Raising children by telling them they are special and deserve everything does not build high self-esteem. It builds a narcissist who believes they deserve all the benefits without any of the costs. Most people do not realize there are two flavors of narcissism. The one most people picture is the grandiose narcissist, who believes they are bigger and better than everyone else and deserves special treatment because of their superiority. But there is also the vulnerable narcissist, who defines themselves as a special, unique victim. Everything has gone wrong for them. Everything is unfair. They have been treated uniquely poorly, and because of this, they deserve special treatment. Grandiose and vulnerable narcissists have completely opposite justifications for their selfish behavior. Yet the result is the same. Everyone should pay attention to me. Everyone should stop what they are doing for me. Everyone should give me what I want. The second cause is simply how the internet has evolved. Everything is personalized and catered exactly to you. Your newsfeed is curated for your interests. The ads all tell you how special you are, how much you deserve a certain outcome, and how buying a product will help you live up to your potential. This messaging has become the water we all swim in, and it is terrible for our mental and emotional health. Most conventional self-help techniques are just sugar highs, making you feel a little happier or a little more special for a moment, like standing in the mirror telling yourself you are beautiful, smart, or likable. The research shows this is not very effective. Techniques like visualization, affirmations, and gratitude practices tend to work better for people who do not actually need them. If you already feel good about yourself, standing in the mirror helps a little. But if you feel bad about yourself, reciting affirmations only reminds you that you feel bad, and that you are the type of person who needs to say affirmations to themselves in the first place. It just makes you feel more pathetic. In my 20s, I developed an intense fascination with developmental psychology, like most 20-year-olds do. I read a lot of brilliant, well-known researchers, from Jean Piaget to Lawrence Kohlberg to Robert Kegan to Erik Erikson, all of whom built frameworks describing how people develop throughout their lives. The early developmental psychologists like Piaget focused on early childhood, looking at how an infant develops basic logical reasoning and can distinguish self from other. Later psychologists looked at how adults develop, how different moral frameworks arise at different life stages, and how different tensions define how we see the world at each age. I became somewhat obsessed with these theories, and eventually simplified everything into a framework that ties together much of what we are trying to achieve in life. I broke it into 3 simple categories: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Each is defined by something simple, though progress from one stage to the next is never guaranteed. The child sees the world in the simplest way possible. I want a thing, do I get the thing or not? The child wants ice cream and reaches for it. The child wants a cookie and reaches for it. All the child understands is wanting something and either getting it or not. If they get it, they are happy. If not, they are unhappy. After being upset enough times, the child develops a theory of the world explaining why they do not always get the cookie. It turns out, mom decides whether they get a cookie, and mom has a different experience and perspective. That is genuinely interesting. Other people have their own perspectives on how the world works and their own desires. Studies confirm that young children do not yet have a concept of self, do not understand that others have different perspectives, cannot empathize the way older humans can, and do not yet grasp social status, social signaling, or cultural standards. Once a child develops this theory of mind, they enter adolescence, which I think of as the transactional stage of life. Think back to high school. Everyone is bartering with each other for social status. If I wear this jacket, maybe they will think I am cool. If I wear the right shoes, maybe I will fit in and make friends. If I say the funny thing in class, maybe the person I like will notice me. Everything is conditional, tit for tat. If I do this, it will produce that reaction in that person. This is logical, because once you understand that everyone has their own perspective, the natural question becomes, what behavior will most likely get me what I want? This carries into the real world, where many relationships function this way. Take the coffee shop I visited this morning. I have a conditional relationship with the barista. I do not care who they are, where they went to school, or where they grew up. I just want my coffee, quickly. That is fine in small marginal situations. But as you go through life, you start noticing that constant conditional interaction with people is exhausting. It feels inauthentic, like performing all the time. And even when it works and people like you, it is deeply unsatisfying. Eventually, you realize that the only way to truly be happy with other people and in the world is to behave unconditionally, To find something in your life that matters so much you are willing to be disliked for it, willing to suffer disapproval, willing to give up the cookie because you found something more important than the cookie. This is adulthood. It is finding the things you are willing to plant your flag in and say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. If I am not for you, that is fine, I understand, live and let live, but I am going to go find the people who are right for me and who share these values. The tricky part is that a large percentage of people get stuck in the adolescent mindset, bartering with the world and performing for approval indefinitely. A big reason is that the modern world is more transactional than ever. You are exposed to so many people and so many opportunities that you feel you should be performing constantly to get what you want. If you never let that performance fail often enough to start living virtuously instead, you will never cross into the adult framework of living. And if you never find the thing you are willing to be disliked for, you will never have a stable, happy relationship with the world. Zooming out philosophically, the reason we want to reach adulthood is that living this way makes us anti-fragile. The adolescent and childlike mindsets are fragile, easily disrupted. If things do not go your way, if you do not say or do the right thing at the right moment, everything falls apart. With the adult mindset, once you have something you stand for and are willing to struggle and suffer disapproval for, any hardship or setback actually makes you stronger. It helps you adapt to new circumstances and find new ways and reasons to work toward what you believe in. The funniest part of all this is that after going deep down this modern psychological rabbit hole, I landed right back at Aristotle. This is basic ancient Greek philosophy. His argument was that there are basic virtues, things you can practice in every single moment, when people love you and when they hate you, when you are broke and when you are rich, when things are going well and when things are a total disaster. They are always within your control, and they are always socially constructive, regardless of where the political fault lines sit that week or that month. If you prioritize these virtues and make them your highest values, you can pursue them in every moment. You can live unconditionally, you can be anti-fragile, you can gain from failure and rejection. You do not have to perform for others, chase status or accolades, or prove anything to anybody. This basic virtue ethic has been sitting in front of us for the entirety of Western history, and I found myself staring it in the face somewhere between scrolling TikTok and Instagram, realizing this was the answer all along. So ultimately, I think we are all developing toward an adulthood that reflects what some of the wisest minds in history pointed to long ago. Pursue virtue. Value the timeless things that are good for everyone. Do not get lost on the hedonic treadmill of chasing more likes, a little more money, the next car, or the next date, because that is temporary. It is just a high, and it will create more suffering than it relieves. Like and subscribe. Health is wealth. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.